Confession time. One of my early MSC cruises nearly destroyed the relationship I had with this cruise line before it really began. I boarded MSC Magnifica, which is a 2010 built Musica class ship with room for about 3,223 passengers, and I expected the traditional cruise experience, MSC style, Italian elegance and great food. Instead, I found shabby carpeting, a rundown ship with tired decor, terrible food, actually some of the worst that I've ever experienced. I lived on pizza for a week and I swore off MSC. I made content saying MSC isn't for me, and I swore I would never cruise them again. Bar none, the worst cruise experience I've ever had, both ship, food, service, everything. Now, about 6 months after that cruise, I was wooed back in through a casino comp offer. And by the way, if you want to learn how to cruise free with casino comps, I'll drop my guide below that shows you how to do that. And just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. Because I ball on a budget, I can't resist free, and I can't resist a free cruise in a balcony room on a brand new ship. So when MSC reached out to me, their casino department, nothing special, anyone can do this, and they offered me on a free cruise on one of their new sea ships, I decided to give them another try. And I've cruised them a few times since, including most recently on MSC World America, where my experience there could not be more night and day difference than that Magnifica cruise a while ago. So I'm going to tell you about my honest review of MSC World America, and I'll tell you whether or not I recommend it now. When a year and a half ago, you couldn't have paid me to take an MSC cruise. Hi, I'm Melissa, a university professor who loves to cruise and who loves to talk ship, and this is my unfiltered take on MSC. First, let me tell you about my Magnifica mess and why I absolutely and strongly advise people do not sail old MSC ships. MSC Magnifica, as I mentioned, was launched in 2010, so it's actually not even that old. I've cruised on older ships from the 90s, like on Carnival and Royal Caribbean, and found them to be in much better condition with more updated decor, even though those are dated too. But Magnifica, she is an older ship. She is a smaller ship. She is 95,000 gross tons. She has 13 decks. And back then in 2010, she was considered a mid-sized modern ship. But by the time I sailed her, she again felt older than those 90s ships. The carpets were worn, the pool deck needed repainting, the main dining room looked straight out of the 80s. So when I actually heard that the ship was from 2010, I couldn't believe it. The food was terrible. I had the worst MDR experience of my life. I had a dinner that, I'm not kidding, took 2.5 hours, and that was with skipping dessert. The crew was just outright angry and surly. And I literally did survive on pizza. And that's always MSC's saving grace. Their pizza is consistently the best at sea. I actually think it's the best across all cruise lines. But after a week of basically living on MSC pizza, I never wanted to see a slice of pizza again. And Magnifica just left such a terrible taste in my mouth, and I swore I would never sail MSC again. Now, quick note, MSC is supposed to undergo a dry dock, and hopefully that will give it a much needed update. But after my experience, even with a dry dock, even with a complete renovation, again, you couldn't pay me to sail the ship again. And in fact, I would not sail any MSC ship that's older or smaller again because my experience was just that bad. Now, part of my mistake was assuming that all MSC ships are alike. They are not. Now, of course, with any cruise line, you've got the new, big, fancy, sexy ships. You've got the old, dated, tired ships. But the difference is stark when it comes to MSC. MSC's fleet spans from older mid-sized vessels, like Magnifica, to the state-of-the-art mega ships like I just sailed, which is MSC World America. So when I got this casino offer that persuaded me to try a newer ship, MSC Seaside, before I even took the offer, because even on a free casino offer, my time is valuable. I'm still paying port fees and taxes. I'm still flying to the port. I'm still paying for Wi-Fi and things like that. I wanted to look at it, and I looked at YouTube videos, I watched reviews, and it actually looked like a beautiful ship. I showed it to my daughter who loves water slides. She was hyped up because the ship looked like it had really great water park and really great water slides. So I decided I would give it a chance. Now, Seaside, Seashore, and Seascape, these are the Seaside class ships on MSC. These are a world above the old, small MSC ships. I'm a big fan of what I call the sea ships. I do wish that MSC had differentiated the names more because it's like a tongue twister. Seaside, Seashore, Seascape. I always forget which ones I've sailed. I have to go to my Shipmate app and look it up. And before this video, I looked it up because I couldn't remember, and I have sailed Seaside and Seascape. And one of them I sailed more than once. So I've cruised MSC a few times, and I really do like their sea ships. They're much bigger. They're about 154,000 gross tons. Seaside accommodates a little over 4,000 passengers, and Seashore and Seascape fit a little over 5,000. So these are really big ships, especially compared to Magnifica, but they're not the big mega ships like Icon of the Seas with the Royal Caribbean. Now, what I really love about the sea ships in MSC is these ships are absolutely stunning. They are the most beautifully designed cruise ships I have ever seen up until this point. World America now takes that crown, but the design is intentional to be sophisticated and beautiful. It has a wraparound seafront promenade, glass elevators with ocean views, multiple infinity pools, and that glass outdoor promenade is beautiful for photos. I got some gorgeous, stunning sunset photos at MSC's private island, which is another bright spot, Ocean Key, that are some of my favorite cruise line photos. They also added a lot of things to do, and this is what appealed to my kid. There are rope courses, some have bowling alleys, F1 simulators, endless bars. I will say on one of my MSC cruises, it does have a bowling alley right above the main dining room. And the first night I kept hearing what I thought was thunder, and it took me a minute to figure out, oh, they stupidly put the bowling alley right above. So I'm not exactly sold on whether or not I think bowling alleys are a good addition to cruise ships, but you can argue with me about that in the comments if you disagree. Seashore and Seascape also added upgrades like the Robotron ride. That's a robotic arm that flings you around kind of above sea. I've done it, my kid likes it, I did it, it was a one and done. I didn't find it scary, I also didn't find it thrilling. It felt like I just needed to go to the chiropractor, but maybe I'm just getting old, I don't know. But they have additional pools, dining venues, all the bells and whistles and razzle dazzle. Now, the environment and the design of these ships is Miami meets Europe. And again, MSC is a European cruise line. They are trying more to cater to US audiences. So they're going for a sleek design, but with a little bit of an upbeat party energy. So sailing on the sea ships really changed my perception of MSC. I remember when I stepped aboard my first sea ship, I was in awe. Like, this is the most gorgeous ship I've ever seen in my life. They're visually stunning. They're filled with activities, and they are a massive improvement visually over Magnifica. However, even after cruising on the sea ships, MSC's Achilles heel has remained the food. Even after sailing these sea ships, I have to say, the main dining room hovered about a C+. I'm gonna be professor here and give you a grade. MDR food, about a C+. Buffets, very inconsistent, probably C, C-. Pizza, always phenomenal, A+, chef's kiss. And the specialty restaurants, I can't say because I had previously never dined in them, but I've heard from cruisers they're pretty good. So the thing with MSC I've started to learn is that you can't rely on the traditional food. You gotta either be Yacht Club, which we'll talk about in a minute, or you have to pay for specialty dining, because the difference between MSC specialty dining and MSC free included dining is a big difference. Now, I have noticed on the sea ships that service still lags behind the other contemporary American cruise lines, like Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Holland America Line, Virgin Voyages, all of these other lines. And on the MSC ships, on the sea ships at least, the crew, they were kind of polite, but I wouldn't say they were warm, and I wouldn't say they were effusively friendly. I got more of a transactional vibe rather than that chatty, I know your name, how are you doing? That kind of service that you do find on the contemporary American cruise lines. And on my most recent sailing on MSC World America, I would say that's pretty much still the same. The crew, they're polite, they're friendly. There are some standouts. I had some amazing crew on World America who were very friendly, who were very excitable. But in general, the service just isn't that kind of over the top that you're used to usually with other cruise lines. Now let's talk about experiences, because I'm not gonna lie, I was very confused about this. And actually when I made this video, I'm like, you know what? I need to learn this so I can tell people about it, because I don't know myself, even though I have sailed MSC now several times. Now with MSC, you're not just picking your stateroom, but they have what are called experiences. These are categories, okay? So they're grouped into Bella, Fantastica, Aria, and Yacht Club. So MSC sells cruises in these 4 experience tiers rather than just cabin categories. Now, I, of course, being that I am cheap AF and I ball on a budget, I have only experienced the lower, cheaper ones, namely the Bella experience. Bella is the cheapest and the most basic. With Bella, it's the GTY, or guaranteed cabin, so you accept whatever cabin assignment MSC gives you. You don't get to pick your room. Your dining time is assigned. If you order room service, the delivery costs extra. Now, Fantastica gives you a better cabin class, a better cabin location. It gives you more flexibility in choosing your dining slot. Continental breakfast room service delivery is free, although those hot meals still cost extra. And you do get 1 free change of your cruise booking if you need to change something. Aria focuses on wellness and indulgence. Now, this includes priority boarding, my choice dining when you get to eat whenever you want, access to the thermal spa, a private sun deck, and sometimes, depending on promotions, things like that, an all-inclusive drink package. And in the last year or so, MSC has announced that Aria suite guests will also get priority disembarkation, a minibar refresh, a Nespresso machine. I love Nespresso. I have one at home. This actually might make me want to book the Aria class in and of itself. Daily chocolates and upgraded linens. And then finally, the creme de la creme, the thing that everybody tells me every time I talk about MSC that I've got to try, which is the Yacht Club. The Yacht Club is the ship within a ship enclave. If you book an MSC Yacht Club room, you get private check-in, you get a personal butler, a private lounge and restaurant, a sun deck and pool reserved just for Yacht Club members, premium drink and Wi-Fi packages, and a dedicated concierge service, basically a butler. Now, people always tell me they got to cruise Yacht Club. It seems like to me, every MSC cruiser who's done Yacht Club is a convert. That's like all they will sail. And they tell me that. But then when I go to sail MSC, I always look at the cost to just upgrade. I even get a free room with the casino. And again, I'll drop my free casino guide below. But when I look to upgrade to a Yacht Club, I look at the cost and it's obscene. I'm talking thousands and thousands of dollars. And I just have a hard time to justify that. So I have yet to try the Yacht Club experience, but I'm not gonna lie, on MSC World America, I did spy some of the concierges or butlers, and I got to see and hear more about the Yacht Club, and I'm like, maybe for a special occasion, like an anniversary or something, I'll cruise MSC again, and I will indulge in the Yacht Club. So I wanna know, have you tried Yacht Club? Is it really worth it? I still don't know if I'm sold because it is so expensive, but let me know in the comments. But regardless, my point here, I'm a yapper, I'm a rambler, you know this about me by now, is that your experience with MSC depends not just on the ship class, but also the experience tier. So you have to consider that. And that's something that, even though I've cruised MSC a lot, I really never even thought of until I started making this video. So if you book a Bella room on Magnifica, which in retrospect, that's probably what I had. I probably had a Bella on Magnifica. That is about as bottom of the barrel basement type of cruise experience you can have on MSC. That is going to be so different than a Yacht Club experience on MSC World America, or even a Yacht Club experience or Aria experience on a sea ship. So you have to consider that. Now, the big saving grace for MSC that has always made them a contender is the price. MSC is consistently the lowest price cruise line. And so a lot of times people pick MSC because of that. So there is a big price difference between things like Yacht Club or even Aria experience. And there's a big difference between ship classes as well. So when making a decision, if you want to cruise MSC, and if you decide to cruise MSC, you got to decide your stateroom type and your experience type. You have to weigh the experience that you expect to get or you hope to get versus the cost and determine if it's a value. So as I mentioned, it was sailing on a sea ship that really kind of changed my mind about MSC. I really started to rethink my hater ways toward MSC. I was very much an MSC hater. And it did remind me that not everything about MSC is bad. Again, the ship difference, night and day. And I still had a lower class experience. I didn't have Aria, I didn't have Yacht Club, but again, the experience was just so much better. My kid absolutely loved the water parks, the water slides, the rope courses, all of the things that they had on the ship, and I loved the design. Now, one thing I did notice about MSC that has held true across all MSC ships is that the clientele of MSC is very, very different. Now, certain stereotypes abound with certain cruise lines. So Carnival is known as the more diverse cruise line, which I love that about Carnival. It's actually probably why it's my favorite ship. Holland America Line is the retirement home at sea, old people ship. I also love Holland. I love old people. I am pretty much an old person. You might consider me an old person, so that's subjective. But MSC tends to attract a strong demographic of European and Latino cruisers. And you'll find this in the design of the things on the ship. So you will hear a ton of Latin music. Carnival, you're gonna hear hip hop. Holland, actually you hear a lot of blues and rock and kind of older timey music. And on MSC, you're gonna hear a lot of Latin music. And here's kind of a fun thing about MSC. I have literally never in my 40 plus cruises ever seen a quinceañera on a cruise ship, but I have seen one on every single MSC cruise I have ever taken. And on my World America cruise, there were actually a group of 16 young women celebrating their quinceañera together. I think it would have been cool if there was 15 of them, but either way, it was really cool. Seeing them parade around the ship, they rented out one of the spaces for their actual quinceañera event. Their families came out in full force. They had these massive gowns and their crowns. And if you've never been to a quinceañera, I've been to one in my life, a friend of mine, it's the coolest experience ever. So getting to see that on a cruise ship is really, really fun. But because of that European flavor, because of that European clientele, Europeans and Americans, they're just different. And some cruisers tend to see that as more of like a cold vibe or a less warm and friendly or talkative vibe. And I've kind of noticed that too with the European clientele and the cruise ship crew, as I touched upon earlier, So again, it's gonna be just a different vibe than the other traditionally American cruise lines. Now let's talk about food, because again, this is MSC's Achilles heel. This is their big problem point. If they could get their food in order, they could be a real contender, in my opinion, to dominate the American market. When it comes to MSC's main dining room and buffet, both are consistently grossly underwhelming. And on Magnifica, they were downright bad. And friends, I have really low food standards. It does not take a lot to make me happy when it comes to food. Seriously, I have low food standards. So when I tell you food is inedible and bad, trust me on this. Now on the sea ships, I did see an improvement in food compared to Magnifica. And again, pizza, that's always the standout. It's always good, crispy crust, that chewy Italian style crust, fresh toppings, authentic Italian flavors. Pizza's always good. Now on World America, I actually noticed a step up more of food. Now what's interesting is as I've been making MSC content since I just got off World America, I've had a lot of Europeans comment and say that they hate the food on MSC World America because they feel now it's gross, it's filled with sodium and sugar, and it probably is, but we just have different diets. And MSC with World America, it was by design and by intention meant to attract American clientele. So they probably made some shifts in their food approach on World America, and that goes noticed by me because I will tell you it's the best food I've ever had on an MSC ship, but it still needs some work. But the Europeans and the non-Americans tend to maybe not welcome these changes as much. Now with MSC, the food, it is a pain point, but there is one way to get around that, and that is by booking their specialty restaurants. I had heard this repeatedly. Again, I'm cheap AF, I ball on a budget. I usually don't like to pay for specialty restaurants, so I never had. But on this MSC World America sailing, I challenged myself to pay the money and try the specialty restaurants because I needed to know if people were telling me the truth about this. And I gotta say, they were right. The specialty restaurants on World America, they were pretty daggone good, especially the standout, which is Hola Tacos. I did try Italy. It was good. It's an Italian spot, but it was pretty on par with, say, Carnival's Cucina del Capitano, for example. But Hola Tacos, it was pretty killer. It's $24.99, so it's a pretty low upcharge for adults. Kids have a lower cost, and it's all you can eat. And it was really, really good. It was so good that we actually went back twice. Now, word to the wise, this is important. If you do decide to cruise MSC, food is important to you. I promise you, if you cruise other cruise lines, you're probably gonna be disappointed with the food. So my solution is either book Yacht Club, but very expensive. But if you don't wanna do that, buy the specialty dining packages and rely on that for most of your food instead of the MDR and instead of the buffet. These are specialty dining packages that MSC offers. You'll see them hawking them starting at embarkation day. You can book them in advance online, and it allows you to dine at multiple specialty restaurants for a lower bundled price. Now, as soon as I got on the ship, I saw them offering this. I realized I want to buy that, but I waited until day 2 to actually pull the trigger to do it, and that is a big mistake that I made. I don't want you to repeat that mistake, because what happened is by the time I went to finally buy the package, all of the dining reservations at the Good Times were gone. And in fact, at one point, all the dining reservations for the steakhouse, which for me would have been my favorite, I didn't get to try it because I waited and screwed around and didn't book it in time. I would have liked to have tried it, but all of the dining times were gone and their only lunch options were available. And I don't want to pay that for lunch. I want to pay it for dinner. So I recommend if you're cruising MSC, food is important to you, you don't want to spring for Yacht Club, buy a specialty dining package, and also book your reservations in advance. Now, another thing to note, a little thing that I kind of don't like about MSC, but this is kind of true of all cruise lines now, they're starting to get a little nickel and dimey. MSC World America has a ton of options and a ton of good food options, but they cost extra. That includes a gelato stand. They have a chocolate store that sells crepes and chocolates. I got my kids a Dubai chocolate, which is on trend right now. It's 22 bucks a bar, but it was a splurge. And I treated myself to a Nutella crepe. Not once, but twice. It was really good. It was a strawberry Nutella crepe, and it was 11 or 12 bucks. So they have a lot of these great food options. They have a candy store, tons of different gelato stores throughout the ship, but these things are gonna cost extra, and there's not bundled packages. They're all a la carte. So to get the good food on MSC, you pretty much have to pay for it. And when it comes to the nickel and diming, that goes for certain attractions too. And again, this is not different. All the cruise lines are gonna charge for things like they have an augmented reality experience. They have a cliffhanger swing that goes over the ocean. I tried it. It was fine. I'm glad I did it. It wasn't scary at all. It was kind of boring actually. It was a one and done. But those things are going to cost extra too, and those costs can start to add up. So that low value cost of MSC that might attract you to book a cruise with them in the first place that might start to chip away as you start to look at all the additional costs and add-ons. And a big add-on for any cruise line, not just MSC, is the drink package. And my big frustration with MSC is their drink package is really, really confusing, and they can't seem to figure out what they include or what they don't, at least when it comes to the specialty coffees. Now, if you buy the alcohol inclusive package, which is premium extra, you shouldn't have a problem. But I am not an alcohol drinker. I have no interest in paying for a drink package that includes alcohol. So I decided to buy their drink package that includes the soft drinks and the coffee. Now, like every other cruise line, if you book a drink package for one person in your room, you gotta book for everybody. So I had 2 kids in my room with me. So I bought the drink package, non-alcoholic drink package, for myself and the 2 kids because they had a sale for the kids. It was like 77 bucks per kid for a 7-day sailing. So I thought it was a pretty good deal. And the reason I decided to buy it, because I don't drink much soft drinks either, is the package said that it included specialty coffees. So on day 1, I embark, I go to the first place that looks like they have coffee, I order an iced mocha. They say, well, that's not included in your package, you have to go here. I went to another place. They sent me to Coffee Emporium up on the outdoor promenade. I was sent to 3 different places, and every single place told me that my package did not include iced mochas. And when I challenged that and even pointed out on my app, I said, see, look, it says specialty coffee is included. They said, oh, well, specialty coffee just means cappuccino and black coffee, which really didn't make sense to me. So there was a lot of confusion. I still have not been able to figure it out. If you know the answer to this, please tell me, because I talked to a lot of different folks on the ship and I got different answers from everybody. And in my MSC World America experience, it probably was the most frustrating experience that I had. Ultimately, I said, can I just talk to the food and beverage manager? So he came out. I said, dude, what is up? Like, it says specialty coffee. Specialty coffee to me is not just cappuccino and black coffee. I drink iced mochas. I drink iced caramels. I drink other things, right, that are specialty coffee. And I finally just said, forget it. I'll just like a refund, please. So he goes, okay, go wait in the guest services line. So I went to go wait in the guest services line. I'm in line. It's embarkation day, so the line's kind of long. Then he comes a few minutes later and says to me, okay, well, I'll give a special deal to you. We'll include your actual specialty coffees, mostly iced mochas, iced caramels, only at Coffee Emporium, but you have to tell them, and if they charge you, I'll have to credit you. It was a fiasco. It was a mess. It was chaotic. And by the end of it, it was fine. The people in Coffee Emporium got to know me. They knew my order. They saw me come in. I didn't even have to order. They knew not to charge me. But MSC, figure this out. What do you got going on with your drink packages? I do appreciate that they offer a drink package for people that doesn't include alcohol, but figure it out. And if you're a coffee drinker, this might be a source of frustration for you as well. Now let's talk a little bit about World America specifically. MSC launched World America in April of 2025, and this is a behemoth of a ship. It is 22 decks, 47 meters wide. It has 2,600 plus cabins, 40,000 square meters of public space. You see how I use those European terms because it's a European cruise line. And it's MSC's first ship that is intentionally designed and built for the American market, and it shows. One thing that's interesting when you sail other MSC ships is you go to trivia and it's Guess the Singer, and it's all these Italian singers. And you're like, who the hell is that? I don't know, I'm an American. And signs at the pool are in meters instead of feet, and temperatures in Celsius instead of Fahrenheit. But World America, everything is English first. It's American first. There's still little European touches here and there. For example, at Coffee Emporium, it says takeaway is available. Well, in America, we call that to go. Europeans call it takeaway. So you see those still kind of like European touches here and there, but this is designed to be for Americans. It's also designed to be segmented, and I like that because big ships can get really overwhelming. MSC World America is divided into 7 distinct districts. There's the open air World Promenade. That's the one that's very noticeable and grand and impressive looking. They have an indoor promenade. It looks like that MSC kind of was taking a nod from Royal Caribbean ship design. And I do love that promenade style, mostly because it's so easy to get around. On World America, it's basically these 3 main decks where most of the indoor action happens. And say you're on deck 7 and you don't know where you want to go, you can look and say, oh, well, that specialty restaurant's on deck 8. I see it right there. I'm just going to go up the stairs. So even though it's a big ship, it's really easy to get around because of that promenade style. And then up on the top outdoor parts of the deck, you have things like the harbor district. This is where my daughter and my niece spent most of their time. They have ropes course, they have a playground, they have amazing water slides. The lines can get long because it's a big ship, but on port days, if you stay on the ship, which I actually did for the first time I've ever done on a cruise, I never have stayed on during a port day, The kids did too. It was their first time doing it too, and they loved having access to stuff with no lines. So this is a big ship. It fits a lot of people, but it doesn't feel overcrowded. Now, when it comes to entertainment, the ship has 13 restaurants and 20 bars. It's a ton. They have that cliffhanger ride that I talked about. They have Jaw Drop, which is that huge indoor silver twisty slide. I did it. It was fine, kind of boring. Don't need to do it again. The kids loved it. They did it over and over and over again. They have that ropes course. They have the aqua park. So they have a ton of things. They even have a hidden speakeasy. Now, I don't want to say too much about this. Let's just say you need a special coin and a special code word and a special invitation to get in. But if you want to know more about it, just look online, and I may or may not have made a TikTok about it that you can find. So I won't spoil all the details, but if you're motivated to learn more about it, you can. The information is not exactly top secret, but you're not going to hear all the scoop from me, at least here. Something that MSC does a great job is with their kids programming. Now, their mascot is weird. It's called Do Re Mi Man or something, and I thought it was actually like a sun, but apparently someone told me it's a compass, which I should know because my one and only tattoo, of course, cruise-oriented, is a compass. But they call it Do Re Mi Land. It's just a weird brand. It's a weird mascot. But whatever, the staff does a great job with the kids programming. On MSC World America, that kids area spans more than 10,000 square feet. They have 7 themed rooms for different age groups. They have a Lego zone, and kid care is provided for free. And they even provide some care for infants. And what's really cool about the kid programs, I haven't seen this as much on other ships. MSC does a really great job, but in a safe way, of taking the kids around the ship to do different things. And they have these little like chants to keep the kids together. They have these little ropes that they hold. And my kid's 12, so these are little kids, but it was really cute to see them wandering around the ship. And I've seen this on World America and also back on when I cruise seaside, but they do like a little kids talent show. And so they actually put them on the stage, parents get to come, and it's a really, really cool touch that I haven't seen on other cruise lines. So if you're cruising with smaller kids, you want childcare, you want quality kids programming, I think MSC is a good option, and they do a great job with this. Now let's talk about cabins. I had an ocean view cabin. I was with my daughter and my niece. My boyfriend had a separate room for him and his brother. He was in an interior room on a higher level deck. And I visited both rooms, and they both were modern. They both were obviously up to date. It's a new ship, but they both were pretty snug. My biggest issue with MSC ships, and I've noticed this on other MSC ships as well, is that their closet configuration is kind of weird. They have false drawers. The door, the sliding door for the closet is kind of awkwardly placed in many rooms by the couch, making it hard to get in and out. And it's just a weird configuration in terms of closet and drawer space. So on MSC ships more than other cruise line staterooms, I have struggled with storage, but other than that, they're very good rooms. And one little fun thing about MSC I've noticed, I don't know if this is a European thing, but MSC designers have a fascination, shall we say, with very gigantic floor-to-ceiling mirrors conveniently positioned at the foot of the bed. So if you're on MSC on an adult's trip, you might have a good time. Or maybe it's just aesthetics. I don't know. But MSC designers do that consistently on every MSC cruise ship I've basically sailed, even on Magnifica. They love their big bed mirrors. Now, if you do, of course, want more space, I had the cheaper experience. Of course, you can upgrade to that Aria or Yacht Club status. That's going to get you the biggest and the best rooms. But again, I personally cannot justify that high cost. So I deal with the limited closet space and make it work. Now I want to talk about entertainment. Entertainment was much better on World America than other MSC cruise ships. I found entertainment to kind of be lacking, kind of different, very kind of European. But on MSC World America, it is geared more towards Americans. My favorite thing, actually probably my favorite cruise line show I've ever seen, is on World America. They do a full on-stage adaptation of Dirty Dancing, which was absolutely my favorite movie as a kid, so that is probably why I love this so much. But they show the whole movie, their dancers, their singers, doing all this stuff live. It's really, really, really cool. And if you don't want to sit through basically a 2-hour movie, they have a shortened version that you can participate in as well. So they have lots of great entertainment. The one thing I don't like, you do have to book a space. I tend to not like to plan ahead too much on a cruise. I prefer just popping in to see a show when I feel like it. So that's one thing I didn't love about it, but I know some people do prefer booking. I want to know, what do you think? Do you like booking or do you prefer go with the flow? One thing I didn't like about the entertainment is I didn't get to see a single comedy show. Space is very limited. The comedy venue is tiny for a cruise ship like this size. I did walk in and there were just so few chairs and places to sit. It doesn't make sense to design a comedy facility or comedy venue that's that tiny. And then some of the seats had really limited line of sight too. So I think the designers of MSC World America, well, they did a fantastic job on the ship overall, I think they really dropped the ball when it comes to the comedy venue. And as a result, I can't tell you if the comedians on World America were any good because I didn't get to get in because they were sold out. Now, another noticeable difference on MSC World America is their cruise directors. I will be honest, I could not have told you a single thing about a single MSC cruise director I have ever had. They were just completely non-entities. Now, the sign of a great cruise director is one that you remember. You remember the name, you notice them, you start to recognize their voice, they have their own little shtick. And I really kind of fell in love with the cruise director on World America. And later, only later, after I was posting about it online, that people in my community were telling me that their cruise director, which is Dr. E, is a Carnival convert. So apparently MSC wooed Dr. E over from Carnival to hire him on MSC, specifically World America, trying to cater to American cruisers. And the minute I found that out, I'm like, that tracks. He seems like a Carnival cruise director. And by that I mean phenomenal. Very personable, very memorable, very funny. And shout out too to Shantae. She was his co-cruise director. I don't think I've ever taken a cruise where I remember having a co-cruise director. I know there's like Fun Squad people that will pop in like with Carnival cruises, but I absolutely love Dr. E and Shantae. They were great cruise directors. They were really fun, and they really helped kind of make that cruise experience more exciting. Another thing I want to note about entertainment is that MSC is really famous for its theme nights, in particular their white party. Now, almost every cruise line, I think they all have some version of a white party. Holland has an orange party, and usually I just skip it. I'm just not into it. But on MSC, this is the one cruise line you don't want to miss out on the white party. They do ball out. And I will tell you, MSC cruisers understand the assignment. If you do not wear white on white night on an MSC cruise, you are going to notice it. You're gonna feel out of place, because I'm not kidding when I say about 80% of the cruisers on MSC cruises understand the assignment. They wear all white. I had my white outfit, thankfully, for the white party, but I didn't start getting ready for dinner until like 6 or 7. And even at 5, I started to feel out of place because everywhere, everybody is decked out and they're all white. So I kind of felt pressure to go to my room and change a little sooner than I would have to make sure I didn't feel out of place. So know that with MSC, they do take the theme nights very, very seriously. They have an 80s night, they had like a glow night, they have the white night, that's the big one, and they do have silent discos. I'm not the biggest fan of silent discos. I think cruise lines, especially Celebrity, over rely on silent discos. On silent discos, they're kind of weird to me. I just don't love them, but that is an option as well. Now, another thing that's interesting about MSC is when it comes to elegant night, it's a little bit more relaxed. Some people dressed up, some people didn't, but this might come to a relief to a lot of folks. The dress code was not strictly enforced. Now, it was great because in the main dining room, not once did I see someone wearing something I thought was like wildly inappropriate, which has happened on other cruise lines. I'm not gonna say which ones, but you probably can guess. But they didn't enforce a dress code because they kind of didn't have to. So even if people didn't go all black tie or even cocktail dressing to the nines on elegant nights, it wasn't a problem. They still had access to the main dining room. So it seems more of like an anything goes type of dress code, but people on MSC do tend to dress a little bit better. Not fancy, just more consistently better. And let's talk about another shining star of MSC, the private island. It's one of my absolute favorite private islands. It's Ocean Key MSC Marine Reserve. It's in the Bahamas. I love it for a few reasons. It's a pier, so you don't have to deal with tendering like you do at some other cruise line private islands. So you get right off the ship, and it's a short walk, and you're right there on the island. The beaches are absolutely gorgeous. This place is pristine. MSC is still in the process of a long-term multi-year expansion, so you may see some of that construction going on. They do marine conservation at the island, which I appreciate. I only have a couple of complaints about Ocean Key, and I think areas where MSC could improve. One is that there is limited shade. There is a lot of direct sun. Now for me, I have heard and I know that there are some issues with, shall we say, some marine life in certain parts of Ocean Key. So I like to stick to the beach that's right by the ship. It's cordoned off, it's roped off, it's right by the lighthouse. I find that that seems to feel and seem the safest in terms of not worrying about ocean critters. And there's very little to no chairs or umbrellas. And what little there are, they get snagged immediately. And you're in the hot heat, direct sun beating down on you. In fact, I still have a sunburn from Ocean Key. In fact, I'm peeling. Isn't that disgusting? So wear your sunscreen too, kids. But Ocean Key is otherwise really, really great. It's just, you probably want to make sure you have some type of shade because it's not always provided there. Now, there are other parts if you want to get out and walk further around the island. They do have a tram, but there's always a long line. It's slow. I try not to use that. I try to leave that for cruisers that have mobility issues. But if you are willing to hoof it and go to the further out areas, it's going to be less crowded and you might have a better chance at finding areas that have some shade. The other quibble I have with Ocean Key is that their gift shops are absolutely horrendous. They're terrible. I'm all about the MSC Foundation and all the conservation work they do, but their gift shops are basically like MSC conservation like logoed things. It's just not cute stuff. I couldn't even find a magnet or like a souvenir ornament. Like I don't necessarily need shot glasses with boobies on them. That's kind of trashy. But I do think there's a happy middle ground that MSC could find when it comes to stocking their gift shops. They're very, very underwhelming. Now, another shining star of Ocean Key specifically is if you can find an overnight call on an MSC ship that takes you to Ocean Key for 2 days, it's magic. Book it. It's great to have 2 days at a port of call. You don't feel rushed. You get to be on the beach at night. MSC, usually if you do an overnight call, they'll do their white party on the beach overnight at Ocean Key. They have a big lighthouse show. It's really, really, really cool. So on my recent visit on World America, unfortunately, it was the last day of our cruise and it was not overnight. So we had a short visit, but I still got sunburned, but it's still great nonetheless. And by the way, if you want my full free port guide for Ocean Key, I'll drop that down below to let you know everything you need to know. One thing I do appreciate about MSC is that if you have a drink package or Wi-Fi, it does work on the island, but I have found that the Wi-Fi is kind of spotty. And speaking of Wi-Fi, let me bring up the #1 bone I have to pick with MSC. This really frustrates me. Of every cruise line, when you buy Wi-Fi, you can toggle between devices. So if I have my phone, I pay for the Wi-Fi package, which is never cheap. I can give my kid maybe 30 minutes a day where I log off the Wi-Fi, she logs on. Or I work on a cruise ship. I am a real life professor. Unless it's summertime or winter break, I am professoring at sea. I have my laptop. I will switch off between my phone and my laptop so I can grade, do emails, and switch back. MSC, however, locks their Wi-Fi down. Now, I know there's some hacks and workarounds, but it gets really complex and I'm pretty tech savvy. They're out there. So if you're motivated, especially if you have an Android, it's easier on an Android. There are ways to get around that, but be aware of that because it is expensive to buy more than one Wi-Fi package. I refused out of principle to buy more than one Wi-Fi package and I just didn't use my computer the whole time. But then I came home and I felt like I was really overwhelmed with work because I only had Wi-Fi on my phone the whole time. So I really wish MSC would rethink their approach to the Wi-Fi. It's very frustrating. I've had that frustration on every MSC cruise I've taken. It's okay to be disconnected for me on Wi-Fi maybe 3-4 days, but 7 days is really, really hard to not have access to my computer because of the nature of my work. So TLDR, would I recommend MSC? Absolutely, but with 2 big caveats. 1, I would never recommend that someone take an old, small MSC ship. Don't do it. Pay a little bit more, cruise Royal Caribbean or Carnival. It's going to be the closest price-wise, but even their older, smaller ships are going to be much better than an MSC older, small ship. That's my big caveat #1. Caveat #2, consider the food. If food is a central part to your cruising experience, you're probably going to be disappointed with MSC, and yes, even on World America, it's probably going to be a step below what you're used to on other cruise lines. But the workaround for that is to consider buying the specialty dining package because MSC specialty dining restaurants are really good. So it's a little bit extra money. You have to build that into your budget. You have to account for that when you're looking at cruise costs and considering different cruise lines and itineraries. But it's not often that I get off of a cruise ship and say, I want to get right back on this cruise ship. And I had such an amazing experience on MSC World America, food notwithstanding, other than Ola Taco, which I could eat every day, that I literally the last night of my cruise was looking at potential back-to-back options, considering doing a last-minute spontaneous back-to-back and just staying on the ship. Unfortunately, they were sold out, but I did consider that and I have never, ever felt that way before. And my daughter, who's 12, she's a tween, she can be hard to please. She absolutely loved it as well, although she does say she still prefers Carnival. But World America, great choice. The sea ships, great choice. And when you're booking too, make sure you note with MSC that experience is going to impact your cruise experience as well. And if you really want to go all out, Yacht Club is where it's at. And maybe one day I'll try it, we'll see.